Hey, Mark. Hey, Richard.
Hey there.
Hey, Kevin.
Just the two gentlemen we need to talk to.
Hope so.
Wet basements, probably the most frequent question we get from viewers.
Yep.
And it seems like you two are the guys to help us out, figure out how to keep our basements dry.
Right. All right. Well, two different ways the water can come in from the outside. No gutter. Downspout is in the wrong position. Come in, go right through the foundation. The second way is water rises through that concrete floor in the basement.
Only two ways.
It makes me think of what an old-time sailing captain taught me. He said, a house is nothing but a poorly built boat, so firmly run aground, you wouldn't dare pull her off. And it's a question of, can you keep the water out of this boat, which is our house, and that's the challenge.
So let's talk about keeping it. If it's that surface water, if it's sort of
Yep.
coming down from, you say, gutters, roofs, and stuff like that.
Right.
Thoughts on how we manage that?
So if we have new construction, easy enough. All we do is run a perforated pipe all the way around the foundation. That cuts out to a dry well. The water gets collected and ends up in the dry well and dissipates.
Right. Harder to do if it's not new construction.
Exactly. You have trees, bushes, the whole 9 yards right in front of the foundation. So expensive to dig and really not cost effective.
So if it's not new construction and we don't want to go through the expense and cost of digging a trench on the outside,
Right.
what are we doing to keep the basement dry?
So take the French drain and put it inside. What we do at that point is we dig around the perimeter of the foundations. We cut the concrete at 12 inches out. We break that up. We dig down about 12 inches. We replace that with 12 inches of gravel.
Right.
But in the middle of that gravel, we put this perforated pipe, and you can see those holes. That's going to take in the water. This water comes out of one corner, goes all the way around the foundation, ends up in the same corner, and
that all goes to what they call a sump, which is fundamentally the same as a bilge on a boat. So once you have a sump or a bilge, you're going to need some mechanical pump to get it out. The original sump pumps that we always have used to have a motor that sat up in the airspace and then a tube down to a volute and a long float. Nowadays, we see more and more of these submersible ones. Submersible has a float switch right here that'll activate at about 9.5 inches, and it'll shut off at about 4 inches, thereby leaving water in the bottom of the sump, which seems counterintuitive. But this is actually a cast iron volute with an impeller inside, and they want to keep this moist or wet so that it doesn't dry out and rust, and so it's with intention. The other thing is this is a submersible, so it's underwater, so it'll be run cooler and quieter. Right. But once you live and die by this sump pump, and you need it, you got to worry about what happens if the power goes away.
Yeah, sure.
This is a 12-volt backup and has a different type of sensor. The operating float switch for this backup pump would be mounted in such a position that it would be higher than the float activation point for the regular 110-volt sump. So if this ever failed, the water would continue to rise, make this switch, and bring this on through the battery. And that means you might get 10 to 20 hours of pump, just enough to get you through that power interruption.
Right.
Another important detail about installations, and we see this all the time, this is your best friend. This is an important device called a check valve. Now a check valve has a little flapper inside of it right here, okay? And what happens is, if it wasn't installed, that pump and or that pump would come on and it would pump and it would go out 30, 40, 50 feet to outside. And when it shut off, what would happen? All the water in that pipe would fall back to the pits, fill the sump again, activate the thing. So literally it'd be a perpetual motion machine, on and off all the time. So this check valve is critically important to make sure you don't burn out the pump.
yeah.
Gotcha. So if I walk into a basement and I see a sump pump, I'm thinking, ugh, I got a wet basement, avoid it at all costs. Is this a bad sign to have it down there in the basement?
So I think that's the misconception of the day. Back when I was a young guy, people would come in and buy a house. If they saw a sump pump, they were gone. Mm-hmm. Today, I look at a sump pump and I say, okay, water table is the water table, but you're handling the situation.
Right.
Sometimes you can't build these houses high enough, so they have to be where they have to be.
Yeah.
You have a sump pump,
Yeah.
again, you've taken care of the problem.
This tells you at least you thought it through and you've got a way to deal with
Exactly.
Some people are so desperate to have a finished basement that they'll actually use this too, which is this rubberized or plasticized material on this side of some strand board, and so now at least you've got a place you can have a dry floor to build off.
Right. And I'm also going to add that this system that I'm talking about is a cure-all. Mm-hmm. This perforated pipe is actually going to grab that water before it hits the bottom of your concrete floor.
Right.
And then again, shift it to that
Better to have
corner.
no water underneath there.
That's right.
Right.
I knew you guys were the right guys to talk
That's
to.
right. Well,
absolutely.
We'll be here in the
right.
basement.
Yeah.
Or on a boat.
On a boat.
Everything's a boat to you. Thanks for watching. This Old House has got a video for just about every home improvement project, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get our newest videos right in your feed.